Okay, hi. We'll continue with part 8 of Federalist number 9. Remember, in all these Federalist papers, Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay are doing two things. First, they're explaining federalism, the Constitution, why it's been framed the way it is. At the same time, they're answering back all the people who are criticizing them in the newspapers of the day. All the people that are saying, well, the way you've set up this system, it is not going to work. It's going to give too much power to the national government, to the federal government. Sometimes when they use national, that means the federal government. Sometimes they say there is not a Bill of Rights. In other words, parts of the Constitution does not mention that we have freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, the right to jury trials. So, and a vast number of other things. So they're constantly answering back their critics, people who criticize them, and also explaining the Constitution, why it has taken the shape it has. As I mentioned earlier, in this Federalist, for the first time, he starts talking about the very important things in a government that gives the government enough energy, enough authority to do its job, yet at the same time make sure that it does not overstep the authority that's been given to it. How do we do this? Hamilton says, we use checks and balances. We use division of power. We set up the courts in a way that our judges, especially the federal judges, serve during good behavior. In other words, they can serve for a long, long time, as long as they don't do any crimes or misdemeanors or do something really, really bad, which will be considered bad behavior. Then you can impeach them, replace them. But till then, they can serve. And this way, they will not be afraid of what the members of House of Representatives would say, what the senators would say, what the president would say. They would not care, because they can't be thrown out of office unless they've done a crime. And also, one other thing, their salary cannot be changed. So let's say if they rule on a case and the House of Representatives or the senators don't like it, they might just lower his salary. But the Constitution says you cannot do that to punish the judge. And then another thing that he mentions in this Federalist says, excuse me, science of politics, just like other sciences, has improved. We're human beings, we are creative. We're not blind, we can learn. Just like natural sciences, physical sciences have improved. Now we know that the earth revolves around the sun. For thousands of years we thought the sun revolved around the earth. Some great scientists, some great astronomers sat down, observed, and found out no. The sun is the center, and we revolve around the sun. And that's why he used the word revolve and orbit, because he's saying, he's reminding his audience that just like the physical sciences, natural sciences improve, the science of political science has improved too. So we can introduce something new. We can enlarge the orbit, enlarge the republic. Why does he have to say that? Why does he have to actually put it in capital letters? Because all the critics are quoting from Montesquieu, the great French philosopher whose book was published in 1748, almost 30 years before the start of the American Revolution. It's called The Spirit of the Laws. And he talks about the idea of division of power, checks and balances. But one thing that he says republics can only be established in small places. Usually the population should be homogeneous, the same race, the same ethnicity, the same religion, the same language. Just, you can simplify it that way. But the Publius, Hamilton, Jay, and Madison are going to say in these Federalists, no, science of politics has changed. We're going to talk to you about republics can be established in a large area. So he says the people who criticize them, anti-federalists, constantly say, Montesquieu said this, Montesquieu said that, Montesquieu said. But they only quote or they only say a phrase that he said on one side of his book, but they don't tell you about what he said in other part of the book. And he says that I'm going to tell you what he's told us in another part of his book, and he says I'm going to say it in 3-4 long paragraphs just so you know that these anti-federalists that are against this Constitution are only telling you part of what you need to know, not the whole thing. So I'll come back to that here in a second, and I'll explain it to you some more.